Evening, everybody. It's 5:45 on Thursday, the 24th of February, and I'm going to go through this. I'm not going to use my normal format because we don't need to talk about earnings or anything else. This was all about an oversold market that, as I mentioned this morning, measured moves were all actually met this morning. Um, and I'll just give you the news quickly. Initial claims down 17,000 to 232. Continuing claims down 112,000 to 1,476,000. That's the lowest number since March 14th of 1970. Q4 GDP second look 7 versus 6.9. New home sales down 4.5%, mostly higher priced, which means the median price in the numbers is higher, less supply of starter and intermediate prices. Okay, so we had a very tough open and pre-open, even with the Dow futures being down hard, as was the Nasdaq and the S&P, all of them. The Dow actually opened down and made a bottom at down 800 and had an explosive move late in the day to actually close up 0.3%, up 92.07. Nasdaq even stronger. Closed up 436.10. That's 3.33%. S&P up 63.20, 1.5%. The Russell up 2.7%, up $52, and the transports up 303.47 or 2.09. Advanced declines both places were 3 to 2 to the upside, and the volume was a solid 30% higher at 6.1 billion shares. If you think this has anything to do with Biden's speech this afternoon or announcements, you're just plain wrong. This was a market that was deeply oversold and it needed a bounce, and that's exactly what it got. The VIX, I mentioned last night, that it had not spiked yet, and it had closed, I think, around 31 and change last night when I said that. Yeah, it closed 31.02 yesterday. Today, it spiked as high as 37.79 and actually closed down on the day at 30.35. Again, this was an oversold bounce in a market that has sorely needed it. The big action was in the QQQ stocks, the NASDAQ 100s. Again, not going to go into everything, but Google traded from a low of 24.95 to 26.60, closing 26.53. Amazon 27.90 to 30.34, closing 30.17, up 120. Apple traded as low as 152 before closing up $2 at 162. Tesla 700 on the low, 803 on the high, finished 797, up 34 and $100 or 16% off its low. The XLK, which is the MEGACAP, industrial, etc., a range of 141.72 on the low, closing on the high 152, up 465. ARC, Kathy Wood, traded as low as 57, closed around 65, still cut in half, and probably after a bounce is going to make another new low. But the fact of the matter is, it rallied 16% off the low. On the NASDAQ, we still had 28 new highs and 723 new lows. On the NYSE, 23 new highs, 400 new lows. This is a market that is at the very least in correction. I told you before, I said it this morning, rallies in bear markets are sharp and severe, and that's what we got. The only one that I'm going to mention that had earnings tonight, because it's an example of just how absurd some of these moves are. Block, symbol SQ. You might remember it as Square. Had a low today of 82.72 and a high and close of 94.99, up 6.25 or 7%. They had earnings. The initial move in the stock was from the close 94.99 down to 87 and then up to 123.09. The last 121, up 32. That's 36%. Nothing has changed. Inflation is still a problem. Gas prices, I'll get to that in a second, are still a problem. So let's look at some of those commodities. I mentioned this morning all the grains were basically limit up. Let's see, the corn closed up only 9 after being up 35. The soybeans actually down on the day. But the wheat, which is a major crop in Russia, limit up. Red hard wheat, 2 cents a bushel from limit up. Oats down. How many people do you think are going to be spending $7 for a half a gallon of oat milk? Crude traded over 154, closed 92.81 after being down to 91 and change. Still closed up on the day. We sold half of what we had left in the nat gas and UNG calls. It finished up 0.48, so just under a nickel after being as high as 493. This is one of the biggest ones. The gold, when I woke up this morning, actually when I woke up at 3 o'clock this morning, we were up $50. We actually traded as high as 1976 and a half. That was up, I believe, right around $66. We closed just under mid-range, still up 1590. But we did actually move lower. And I want to give you a little bit of context here so that you can see what this looks like. We are well on the way, even with the close just mid-range, well on the way to testing the all-time high, I believe, at 2089. Dennis told me that his number, and as I've mentioned a half a dozen or a dozen or 3 dozen times, Dennis is really great on these numbers. And he's looking at a close over 1912, which we had today. We would need it tomorrow because that's the way that he works on Friday closes, weekly closes. A close over 1912 would be 2045 as a price objective in the longer term. So that wouldn't be a new high, but it would be right in this range here. This is 2050, 2045 right here. So there's still a ways to go. And remember that the leverage here is pretty extreme. Again, if you are interested in trading futures, give me a call or a DM or an email, and I'll be happy to give you the information. Bitcoin was up as high as 39,740, closed at 38,360. This has also, really gotten hammered. The low today was 34,200 and change. I pointed out last night that this was the rising 100-week MA, and this bottom were really important areas. We were down here. We closed higher on the day, and this is where we are on the week. We're up towards the top of the range, but for the week, we're actually still lower. Bonds were up over $2, 2 points first thing this morning on flight to safety. They actually finished down an eighth, and the dollar closed up almost a full percent, 97.11, up 93. Again, I'm going to say it until you understand it. This market is severely punished. It was due a rally, and that's what we got. Do not think that this is all over. They are still testing Biden. He is failing. Um, there's just no other way to put it. And Putin is doing whatever it is that he feels like doing. And it's really unfortunate. All right, folks, I'll be back first thing in the morning with your pre-opening comment. Tonight's daily note will go out in a while, and hopefully I won't get snowed in overnight. By the way, just want to make mention, we are actually up in the neighborhood of 18% year to date in all of this devastation that has taken place in the last 7 weeks. But a better metric, since I rarely use more than about 20% of the money, and we have a 50% down roll, I have a new metric on the ledger, and if you're a subscriber, you can go to the website and look at it. On money actually used, we are currently up 197%. We are 15, I believe, 15 out of 19 trades are winners. So, just a little commercial. Feel free to email me or call if you have any questions about the futures. I'll be back in the morning.